Welcome to Hartfelt Beer Reviews. My name is Kyle Hart, and today I welcome you with yet another extremely rare, extremely special beer review. This is 50/50 Brewing Company's Imperial Stout, brewed with honey and then aged in peach brandy barrels. So the name of this beer is Eclicpe. They do a series every year, and each different variant, they do basically up to 10 or even more variants each year, aged in different bourbon barrels or brandy barrels. This particular one is aged in peach brandy barrels, which I have not had. I had to order it from California on craftbeerkings.com. I do believe I paid about $36 plus shipping. So I probably paid, honestly, around $50 for this bottle, which is kind of incredible. But to me, it's worth it because I really enjoy beer, and I'd like to know more about beer. So I'm willing to pay most anything, and unless it's too crazy. But this is, it says on the bottle here, it says, stout brewed with honey and brewed and bottled by 50/50 Brewing Companies out of Truckee, California. And then all of their beers are 11% alcohol, and all of their Eclicpe beers, I should say, are 11% alcohol. And then all of their Eclicpe beers are also brewed with honey. So that's a nice fermentable that they use. I don't often pick up the sweetness because normally it's eaten up completely by the yeasts. But I'm gonna go ahead and get this into a glass. I'm gonna give it a nice hard pour so I can show you the head development, if any, and then get the aroma and taste for you. Cause I'm really excited about this beer. I can't wait to get it into a glass. So cheers. Okay, the head's really developing nice. I had to slow down that pour, that was kind of aggressive. And even from here, I can really smell the peach. And that's surprising. You know, I really didn't expect that. The really only concern that I have with the Eclicpe series by 50/50 Brewing Company is most of the ones I've had, you know, I've had several, I can't really name them all off the top of my head right now, but they tend to be a tad bit thin, which is, again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just I prefer my stouts to be a little bit thicker, maybe motor oil type. But if the taste follows anywhere close to the aroma, then this beer is going to be just a one-of-a-kind special experience that you can just really have to feel. You feel it deep in your bones, all the way down to your toes, man. I mean, I am this excited about beer, especially stouts are my favorite style, especially barrel aged. I've had the apple brandy barrel version. I believe 2017 was the bottle year I had. I'm not entirely sure. It might have been a 16, but I think it was a 17. But this is the 2018 peach brandy. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you the nose and tell you what I think. Wow. The brandy complex, you know, brandy's a much milder than bourbon is, so you really don't get a bourbon smack like you would in a bourbon barrel aged beer, or a stout I should say. But the brandy is really, it complements everything more than it overtakes. It doesn't overtake anything. It just melds together. And I should say that head retention is just stays. I mean, it's about a finger's worth of khaki head, and the beer is just as opaque as possible. I mean, hold it to the light, maybe a little bit of brown tint to it, but there's no seeing through that beer at all. And like I said, from here I can really smell the peach. So let me get a more in-depth aroma. Wow, that peach is just, it's up front, but it's not overwhelming. It doesn't smell cloyingly sweet. It really mixes with that brandy barrel. Wow. I am actually getting the honey, oddly enough, because normally the honey is buried. It either is buried when it ferments completely into the beer, or the bourbon overtakes it. But since this is brandy, I'm really getting that peach, and I'm getting the honey, the You can really get a nice vanilla flavor as well, or aroma as well, I'm sorry. I'm just so excited, I'm stumbling over my words here. But this is just absolutely a one-of-a-kind beer. And like I said, in the aroma, peach, sweet, almost a white peach. And then you get the brandy, which lends itself a nice complexity. I mean, it's a nice, smooth, very smooth vanilla, caramel, and the honey that they brew with this. I'm almost getting either a caramel candy or like a butterscotch sweetness in the aroma, which is really intriguing. It's just a wonderful, wonderful smelling beer. I'm going to go ahead and give you a taste and tell you how I think. Cheers. Wow. Wow. Okay, one thing I noticed, oddly enough, most of these beers you really can't taste the ethanol or the alcohol in the beer. This being 11%, it's going to have a little bit more of a kick, but that first sip drinks like it's 13 or 14% alcohol. So that alcohol is not hidden at all, which is kind of maybe that's just the first sip. I'm going to wait until I get a few more sips to make my final, determination of how I think about this beer should be. But you get the peach up front. First thing you taste is peach. You get subtle to moderate roasted malts. This beer is very, very, very carbonated. And then you get a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of caramel, and they're just very subtle. And you do get kind of a butterscotch, kind of like a Werther's original kind of. And it just melds. I mean, it's just very subtleties, very small amounts that you can taste here. That burns all the way down. For 11% alcohol, that's surprising. I've had other barrel-aged stouts that are 11% that don't burn near as bad as this. So the ethanol presence is there, unfortunately. I would have liked it to be a little bit more well hidden. This beer is not thin in the mouthfeel, but it's not overly viscous either, which is what I personally enjoy. I'd say it's not quite a moderate mouthfeel, but it's a thin to moderate, but it's definitely not thin. The flavor profiles that it states on the bottle are there. I mean, you really taste the peach. You taste vanilla. You taste just a mild, subdued char instead of an upfront, forward char like you would in a bourbon. Then you get caramel, then almost a butterscotch candiness to it. You get the roasted malts. You get just a little bit of bitterness. I'd say this is maybe, if I were to guess, the IBUs on this beer, which is International Bitter Units. If I would guess the IBUs, which would be hard to do, I'd say it's probably only like a 40 out of 100, and 100 being like a triple IPA. This is really it's really a really well melted beer. I mean, if you take it for what it is, is it one of my favorites that I've had? No. The best one that I've had is the Bellmead Bourbon Barrel. That was the 2018 variant. Was my favorite because that beer had otherworldly characteristics in its flavor profile that I'd sit here all day explaining to you what it tasted like. But I do enjoy this beer. I recommend it. This is something that you need to try if, and that's a big if, you can get your hands on these, because they don't distribute really. Honestly, the only places I've ever seen Eclicpe Imperial Stouts be at is in Buffalo, New York, and then of course you can get them at the brewery, which I've not been to. Also, I forgot, you can also get them at the Beer Temple in Chicago. They have most variants. They didn't have this one, or else I would have went there, because I'm in Milwaukee right now. So this is a good beer. I mean, this is world class. Would I say? No, not in my opinion. but this is a fairly good stout. You know, I'd give it a 4 out of 5. You know, I don't normally like to rate beers because taste is subjective, and I want to recommend these beers to people for them to try it on their own. Because just because something's good doesn't mean somebody will like it. Just because it's bad, it doesn't mean somebody won't like it. So, you know, if you're at the end of the day, if you're drinking a beer that you enjoy, technically you're drinking good beer. But this is very surprising. I didn't think I'd get as much peach in this as I do. I mean, it's really distinctive forward peach, but not so forward that it's cloyingly sweet. You know, you're not getting a toothache here. But I can almost distinctively smell white peach, which is just a little sweeter, got a little bit more aroma to it, a little juicier. And like I said, the only downside to this beer is that flavor profile is just astounding. First thing, peach. Then you get the barrel, you get the char, you get the vanilla. I wouldn't say you get a toasted coconut presence to this beer as you do in some barrel-aged stouts. Then you get a caramel sweetness in the middle of the mouthfeel, and then kind of a sticky butterscotch candy. But it's so subdued that you would have to look for it. I mean, you'd really have to know what you're looking for to be able to taste that, because they don't brew with these flavors. You know, these are just extra flavor characteristics that the barrel may provide during the aging process. And then you do actually get the honey sweetness that they brew when they brew this beer with honey, which again usually is hidden. But you do get all of these flavors, which is just astounding. But the only downside in my eyes to this beer is that it's extremely carbonated, which happens sometimes. And then it's kind of thin. It's not, you know, it's just it's almost a tad hair away from being too thin. If it's too thin, then to me they're just not worth drinking, in my opinion. You know, if you're going to brew a stout that's thin, then you're just losing a lot of what could be in a barrel-aged stout. But that's not the case here. The real main thing that sticks out to me more than anything else, other than the flavor profile that I enjoy so well, is that this alcohol presence is huge. I mean, I've had 14, 15, 17, 18% barrel-aged stouts, and this drinks like a 15% stout, which is unbelievable that it's only 11%. So, other than that, if you are really interested in finding this beer, I don't know about shipping overseas, but I know that you can get this from craftbeerkings.com for around $36 plus shipping. Shipping is around $12 to $14. So look for it while you can if it's still available. Thank you for watching this review, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Cheers.